When I launched this channel, I decided that I was going to avoid talking about partisan politics. I mean, there's definitely a political side to food, and it's important, salient, and germane. I hope to really dig in and unpack that aspect of food because it's really important, and it directly impacts our lives in a profound way. But I'm drawing the line at discussing partisan issues. And by that, I mean I want to avoid endorsing or criticizing candidates or parties in high-profile races, such as the presidential race that's running hot and heavy as I make this video. And I do have strong opinions on the race, and I've even been volunteering for my candidate in my very limited free time. It's just that I want this channel to be a place where anyone who wants to engage in the food conversation can feel welcome and not get beaten over the head with my personal viewpoints on the election. I am actively engaged with the election, but this channel is not the place for that. Everyone is welcome here, and nobody has to worry about my pontificating or proselytizing my endorsements. If you're curious to know who I'm supporting, and if it's not obvious enough, feel free to drop me an email and I'll be happy to respond. I'm very transparent in my political views, just not here. Now, if something in the public discussion should come along where food is the focus, such as, say, the Farm Bill or regulations about labeling and nutrition, that sort of thing, yeah, I hope to have something to say about that. Similarly, if a candidate should run who has food policy at the center of their platform, I may talk about that too, but in the current high-profile election, that's not the case. So for the time being, I will not be using the channel as a platform for promoting my personal political affiliations. Now, that much being said, there is one thing that I do want to endorse, and that is voting. I do want you to vote. I want you to participate. It's so important. Your vote is the foundation of your freedom. It breaks my heart and makes me feel very frustrated when I hear people say that they don't think their vote matters because the opposite is what's true. Your vote, our vote, is the most important factor in protecting our voice, our liberties, our essential freedoms, and our very way of life. And that's not an exaggeration. History has numerous examples where the complacency of everyday people has become the pathway for those who crave power. Now, make no mistake, complacency is complicity. It happens. It has happened, and it absolutely could happen, and it could happen here. Your way of life and your self-agency are literally at stake. The price of living in a democratic republic is that you have to participate. A trope you hear bandied about a lot, maybe even to an annoying degree, is that freedom is not free. And that may sound a bit hackneyed by now, but it's true. Freedom has a cost. And that cost is that you have to vote, and you have to vote from an informed perspective. The cost of admission to a free society is giving a crap, and giving enough of a crap to pay at least a little attention. Make sure your ideas are supported by facts. Listen to opposing viewpoints. You can disagree with them, but you should have some ideas to why you disagree with them. Now, at the risk of sounding like a senile old man, I'm old enough to remember when political conversations were more thoughtful and more civil. I spent most of my young adulthood working at a daily newspaper where I had coworkers from all across the political spectrum. We argued all the time about everything from the role of government to how our tax dollars should be managed, and sometimes those arguments got really heated. But no matter how heated they got, at the end of the day, we were always able to shake hands, be friends, go out for a drink together, and treat each other with respect. That newspaper is where I was on 9/11. And that day, more than any other, reminded me of how proud I was to live in this country and how lucky I was to be surrounded by thoughtful people who could listen to one another. Even the people with whom I disagreed, actually, I'd say especially the people I disagreed with, and I were so supportive of one another. We knew who we were, and we knew why we were together as Americans. Democrats and Republicans, Arabs and Jews, and people of all variants of affiliations, ethnicities, orientations, genders, and worldviews. We watched together in imperturbable solidarity as the events of the day unfolded. Whatever horrors were visited upon us for that time, it was us. And within the walls of our newspaper, our mutual respect and unity felt indomitable. We may have had different ideas about why the world was the way it was and what direction we were going as a country, but there was no doubt that we were a country. And in the midst of that feeling of collective violation and transgression was a collective sense of the collective, and everybody knew it. Walking around downtown, people were openly crying. Some were singing, strangers were shaking hands, and the vitriolic static we're witnessing today could not have felt more unfathomable or further away. Now, I would hope that it's obvious that there is no part of me that is nostalgic for that time. It was horrible, and I'm certain that everyone I knew had a giant pit in the stomach. It was one of the worst days of my life. It was for all of us. But something in our core has shifted. It's ironic that in some ways, life has rarely been easier, yet living together feels so hard. We know so much about each other, yet seem less interested in understanding. And that's my other invitation to you today. Yes, vote. Of course, vote. And that's the most important thing, but I would ask something else of you, something less time-consuming, but perhaps more challenging. I'd like you to think about someone with whom you disagree. Someone whose values and worldview are so different from yours that it makes your blood boil, and try in earnest to understand why they think the way they do. It's not enough to say something insipid like, it's because they're stupid or ignorant, or they're just coming from a place of fear. Because people just aren't that one-dimensional, and they're probably not incapable of understanding you. No, get past that. If you think they're fearful, then what are they afraid of? What understandable, justifiable, real and true thing are they afraid of? If you think they're ignorant, then what is the piece of the puzzle they're missing? What information would they need to understand you? It's not enough to just complain that people don't understand you. You need to understand why. If someone doesn't understand you, try to understand their lack of understanding. It doesn't mean changing your mind to suit theirs. It doesn't require admitting that you're wrong about anything. The point is just to learn how to disagree without getting your mind twisted up in a downward spiral of frustration. Now look, just do the simple math. By the numbers, we're roughly split down the middle, with one half of us leaning one way while the other half leans the other. Now think about the people you encounter from day to day. Depending on where you live and work and the places you frequent, that means a lot of the people you encounter on a given day have ideas that are very different from yours. Do the people you interact with seem evil and misguided to you? Notwithstanding that person who cut in front of you in traffic the other day, of course. But do you find a lot, or really any of the people you interact with, to be bloodthirsty or hateful or impossibly stupid? Probably not. You might find them annoying. You might find them thick-headed, uncooperative, difficult, or even strange. But I'm willing to bet that you know very few, if any, people who you find to be deliberately set on destroying the country or dismantling democracy or harming children. That's nonsense. You probably know a few people who are truly stupid, but that's just the math. No matter how intelligent we ever become as a species, 49% of us will always be below average intelligence. And that's just a mathematical inevitability. Over my moderately long life, I've known a lot of people from all kinds of backgrounds and ideologies, and I've never found a shortage of intelligent people with whom I disagree, or simple-minded people who vote like I do, and vice versa. There are kind and smart people of every viewpoint, and it actually takes a certain thick-headedness to not see it. In other words, be very careful of believing that people you disagree with are stupid, because being of that mindset is, in itself, a mark of a certain kind of stupidity, and I don't want you to be stupid. Also, be aware that stupidity and intelligence come in a lot of different forms. Someone may be very poor at math, but be gifted with language, poetry, and art. Someone could be a genius at grasping deep spiritual and philosophical concepts, but might be a little slow when it comes to understanding technology. Someone might be good at understanding history, but have limited social skills. I wouldn't know anything about that. But I even once heard a well-known luminary of our time say that being good with food counts as a valid line of intelligence. May it be so. It's just to say that it's really unlikely that you are at all equipped to ascertain someone else's intelligence because you may not even have a concept of the type of intelligence they possess. Now, some of us, a lot of us, tend to live in bubbles. We tend to prefer the company of those who see the world the way we do, and depending on the resilience of the bubble you live in, it's entirely possible that you don't really encounter many people who see the world differently from you. If that be the case, then just take the wider perspective. When you see a political rally on TV and you see all those people and you find yourself despairing for the world on account of their very existence, just remember that you don't know them. You don't know what their life has been. You don't know why they see the world the way they do, and it's just simple math that some of them are very intelligent, thoughtful people, and unless you talk to them, you'll have no way of knowing it. If you watch those entertaining YouTube videos where they interview people on the street or at political rallies who say ludicrous things, remember that those people were cherry-picked for the video. That interviewer may have talked to 50 people before they found that one who was so ridiculously stupid so as to make the final edit. Same goes for pretty much all of the political content out there. If they only showed you thoughtful people with carefully considered viewpoints, it just would be very interesting. Now, if you do watch those rather entertaining videos, and they are entertaining, but if you watch those and find yourself saying, "My God, those people are so stupid," then the joke is actually on you. Those videos are not designed to present you with a well-reasoned representation of really anything. Those are not your neighbors or your fellow Americans. Well, not for the most part anyway. I mean, obviously they are out there, God help us all. But they have not been selected because they're emblematic of the good people with whom you happen to disagree. They have been selected because they're the most infuriatingly ignorant among us. Now, if you can watch that trash and have a good laugh about it without getting bent around a pole, then by all means, enjoy yourself. But it's not worth poisoning your mind over. Rest assured, that's not the best of us. Indeed, it is usually the worst of us, and you should know better than to think that those are your neighbors. Those are the clowns, and the clowns are entertaining. It's imperative that we stop thinking of those who disagree with us as clownish. In fact, I would say that seeing the world that way is a form of smugness, and we don't need that. Now, I'm not usually a prayers and blessings kind of guy. Now, a lot of my very favorite people in this world are, but that's just not usually what you hear from me, and I promise that next week I will get back to more fun food nerd stuff, but just this once, just today, I'd like to leave you with this, I don't know, is it a prayer? Is it a blessing? I don't even know. I'm not sure what it is, but let what needs understanding be understood. Let what needs healing be healed. Let what needs release be released. Let what needs forgiveness be forgiven. Let what needs love be loved. Let what needs connection be connected. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Ciao.